So we're gonna be changing the rollers on our needles, and we're gonna be changing the rollers on these two cam rollers. I've already got one out, but this one here is the one that takes the most abuse. This is the cam for the twine fingers, and this is the cam for the tucker arm. But while we're in the middle of doing this, we are replacing a bunch of all the hay dog springs. These guys right here, these have a life of about 50,000 bales, it looks. They're not quite worn through, but they get a pretty good groove worn in them, kind of like the hay dogs on the side. These ones don't wear quite as bad as the one on the side. I've actually never broke one of these, but they're getting that groove wore to where they're about ready to go. So how we do that, they're kind of a bastard, but we take the roller. Number one, we roll the knotters over enough to where the block on this cam moves far enough to where we can unbolt the roller on this roller here that's on this cam for your tucker arms, to where that arm will pull up, because there is slots on these tucker arms for the pins to come out, but it is such a bastard. The easiest way to do it is to roll it over to where you can get this to the highest point. When you lift this up, take a 2x4 and block it up. And this is the perfect time to check, which we did these rollers last year on these, and these rollers don't really take any abuse, but this is perfect time to check these rollers and make sure there's no slop or any of them froze up or anything like that, because this is how you would replace those rollers as well. All mine have been replaced recently, so they'll go another probably 2 years before we have to do that. We usually do those about every 3 years. This is the first time we've replaced these hay dog springs up here on this baler. It's my oldest baler. And so that's kind of how we do it. We leave the knotters up out of the way because we're rolling needles just far enough to where we can get that tucker arm roller off and move the tucker arms to the highest point in order to get to those hay dog springs and the pins, and they come right out. So that's how we do that. And then we're going to go ahead and flip the knotters back down and replace those two cam rollers when they get to like this one here is almost to the highest spot, so we'll be able to just put a pry bar in there real quick, lift that down off the cam, loosen it up, put the new cam rollers on. I do these rollers here every year. In fact, the one that takes the least amount of abuse is froze up on this baler, so every year we replace them and they still freeze up. So make sure to do that. I've seen these to where this roller will go out and it'll leave, it'll end up, the roller will fall off and it'll be riding on the center race of this roller bearing, and it wipes this cam out, messes this cam all up, and your twine fingers don't actuate correctly and they'll start mistying all the way across. And so it's just best not to go through that and just replace those rollers every year. So that's what we're doing here, but we're doing this as another one that we're doing because we're rebuilding the knotters. That's why we decided to go ahead and put these new springs on. None of them were broke, but they were starting to get heavy wear, and it's a good time to get in there and do all those. And then, like I said, we'll roll the needles up, put new rollers on the needles, which we replace the rollers on the needles every year, but the tucker arms and the slacker arms, we only do those about every 3rd year because they don't take as much abuse. So that's a good time to go through and do those, and everything's out of the way when you're ready to do it.